thinking about this, I might as well just put this in audio format for everybody to listen to. So the sound quality might not be as good as what you would expect from my professional microphone. And you might hear some more noise, but it'll have to do for now. But I'll be cleaning stuff around my apartment, probably making food and just talking about some things that come to my mind. But first thing I want to talk about is when you are going through life and you feel stuck, you don't feel like you're really getting anywhere. The first thing you have to do to break out of that is to make a change. You've got to do something different. You can't keep doing the same thing every day, expecting to have different results, because the next day is going to come. You're going to wake up, you're going to look in the mirror, you're going to ask yourself, why is this not changing? Why is my life still the same despite all the effort I've been putting into this? So the first thing you got to do is make a change. It can be a small change. It doesn't even have to be anything drastic, but sometimes it might have to be something drastic. One thing I would do to start is clean your apartment, clean the area that you live in, rearrange things, take out all your trash, clean the walls, do something simple as that. And just by the act of doing things, you will have more things done. You can take your mind off of stuff by getting things done around the place. You can feel like you're actually achieving something. So if it feels like you're not getting anything done, then that would be a good way to start. Another one would be to make sure that the people you're talking to in your life aren't people that are constantly negative, or people that are there just for their only their own benefit. They just come around when they need something. I've had friends like that before, or people in my life, and it's always when things get tough for them that they suddenly want to talk to you, and they suddenly want help. Be careful of those type of people as well. And as I was saying about decluttering your life, you can just start with the most simple things. As I said, just clean the area that you live in, organize things, throw away and let go of things that you don't need no more, things that you don't use, things that are of no value anymore, that aren't helping you in any way. And if you're holding on to things in life that are just materials that don't really do much of anything for you, that aren't of any use anymore, then if you can't let go of something like that, how are you going to let go of people in your life that are only there for their own benefit, that are only there to help themselves, that don't really care about who you are or what you're doing with your life? And at the end of the day, you can have all the friends in the world, you can know a lot of people, but if you can't overcome things on your own or to think for yourself, then you might not ever even make that change. You might not make that commitment to move forward and to overcome those obstacles in life. And we all, we get across obstacles in life that we think, this is too hard. There's no way I can overcome this. What should I do? And then we turn to all the people around us for help. Those of us that do have a lot of friends and people that we know. But for me, I never had a lot of people to talk to, so I had to turn inward into myself, and I had to start asking myself these questions. I had to help myself to figure out what it was that I had to do with my life to better things, to get out of that mode of being stuck, feeling like I wasn't getting anywhere. Sometimes you just have to make that change, and because there's going to be times where you don't have someone there to help you to get through it, and there's always going to be a point where that happens. I mean, you get older, we grow up, friends pass away, family pass away. You're not always going to have those same people there to help you. And so as these people come and go from your life, you don't want to completely rely on them for everything. I mean, sure, as a kid when you're growing up, you've got, maybe your parents to rely on some things, and maybe because I had issues with that growing up, family problems, I didn't really have a constant nurturing from parents. I mean, my mother was there for me, but there was just so much going on that it was kind of hard for somebody to help someone when they've got so many of their own problems they're dealing with, when they are trying to figure out their own life and to raise a family and to help everybody around them. And I think maybe my value of independence and thinking for myself rather than trying to just think about what I should do with my life based on what others think, maybe it has to do with how I grew up as a kid. Maybe that is one of the reasons. But I think that for me it's a good thing, because now I've always enjoyed the solitude and the peace and quiet of being able to be alone, to think, to get things done on my own, and to be dependent on myself. And so by doing that, you have to take responsibility for your choices in life. You have to take responsibility for what you've done. So any mistakes that you've made, you have to owe up to them, because it's all up to you. And now, as I've gotten older, and most of the friends I did have when I was younger, like, I grew up in Florida until I was about 15. And then I moved here to Ohio because my parents had divorced, and I didn't really have a say in the matter. I didn't want to stay down there. I wanted to move up here with my mother, because the way things were going down there, I didn't have anything to look forward to, really. Everything was just negativity. A lot of the people and the family and stuff, there's issues, so I needed a change. And I remember being asked if I wanted to stay or if I wanted to go. And I guess in a way I did have a choice, but in a way I didn't, because something told me, that it would have been a really bad choice for me to have stayed, and to not made that choice to get on that plane flight to come to where I'm at now, because who knows how my life would have turned out, or how things would have been if I didn't make that move. I mean, I don't know who I would be today. What would I have turned into? Would I be the artist that I am now? Would I have pursued powerlifting and all that? Would I have the interest that I have now? What kind of person would I even be? Would I be as strong-minded as I am, or as strong-minded as I think I am now? Would life have been worse? Could it have been possible that it could have been better? And one thing is that when we get stuck in life, we constantly think about how things were, the past, missing the person that we used to be, and thinking, why can't I go back to that? Why can't I go and be, who I once was, that had these emotions of hope and ideas of wanting to be something in life, and and on and on, and you constantly have these thoughts, and it's just a cycle that happens over and over and over. And then you wake up every morning thinking to yourself, what do I do? What's the next step? Why was it when I was younger I was able to have hope for life? Things were exciting. I actually looked forward to the next day. I looked forward to actually doing something. Just the basic simple things in life, just being happy that you have breakfast to eat. The excitement you have as a kid of just being able to play some video game for 15 minutes, or to spend some time with a friend for maybe half a day. And then as you get older, we're getting this cycle of constantly thinking about negativity, thinking about who we once were, what we once were, and trying to go back to that, to think that maybe we can be that person again. But I don't think we can ever be that person again. It was a different time. It was a different place. And through those different times and places, and as we age and move through life, our mind state and who we are completely alters. We're not that person anymore. We can try to be. And by trying to do that, by trying to force yourself to be something that you once were, that you no longer are, you will perpetually be stuck in a loop of negativity and destruction of your own life. So don't try to be who you once were. Try to be what you are now and accept who you are now. That doesn't mean to accept the bad choices that you're making. If you are making any bad choices, what it does mean is to accept the choices that you've made that are problems by taking responsibility for it, and to acknowledge those mistakes, and to understand that just because you are in this position now does not mean that tomorrow, next week, or next month, or next year, that things won't change or won't get better. Because after all, think of how your life was when you were younger, or maybe how it was a year ago. It's changed so much since then. What makes you think that it can't change? And why would you be asking yourself this question in the first place? Why do you want to change? Is it for someone else? Is it for you? Is it a personal reason? Because you don't want to just change for other people, because that's never going to make you happy. You gotta change for yourself. But sometimes we might have people telling us that we need to change, and they might be somebody that have a better sense of direction in life. They might have more wisdom, knowledge, and experience, and you might be lacking that, and they're just trying to help you. So maybe they had things that happened to them where they were in the same position in life as you are, and they see the struggle that you're having, and they want to help you out. So you don't want to be arrogant, naive, and to think that you know it all, because we can't know it all. If we knew it all, then we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't be asking the question of why do I want to be better? What is it that makes me want to try to be better in the first place? Because if you're even asking that question, then well, you can't be perfect, and perfection does not exist, because if perfection existed, we would stagnate and we would just give up. There would be no help of moving forward, of trying to improve, because well, what would be the point of improving in the first place? So we always change, life always changes, circumstances change. So what you've got to do is let go of trying to hold on to the idea of what you once was and trying to relive that. Let that go. And what you need to do is to live with who you are now, to accept what you have now, and to stop trying to live your life in the past, trying to relive those moments, because they're gone. Sometimes you just got to say goodbye to it and move forward, so you don't get stuck in life trying to be somebody you once were. And sometimes you can make small steps, but sometimes those small steps might not be enough. You might have to make a big leap. You might have to do something drastic, like maybe move. Maybe the people that you're around aren't a very good influence. Maybe it's your job. Maybe you need to make new friends. Move to a different place. Do something drastic. Think of all the material things you have. Do they have any value to you? What matters more to you, materials or people? Materials or memories? And by memories, I don't mean living in the past from 20 years ago of somebody you once were and trying to relive that. What I mean is memories of yesterday or something that happened last week or a month ago. What memories do you think of the most? Because often we become our thoughts. We become stuck in our head, thinking that we are our thoughts, but you're not your thoughts. And if you think so, then, well, your thoughts they already control you. They're already the ones dictating everything for you in life. So you've got to get your thoughts under control. You've got to get yourself out of that position where you're just stuck when you're doing that same thing every day, day in, day out, and then you wonder why your life isn't changing. You got to do something different. For me, if I'm stuck, for example, let's say an example of it would be, I want to feel better physically. If I say that to myself, but every day I wake up, I don't eat breakfast and a good meal, I don't stretch, I don't go and exercise, I sit in one position all day, or I never go out and go anywhere and do anything, or just sit around in my house, I don't go for a jog, I do nothing, and yet constantly expect a different result. It's not really going to work very well. It's just like if you want to be a really good artist and you sit around talking about it, but you never practice. You can learn as much as you want to learn. You can watch all the videos you want to learn about tutorials, but if you don't take action, then what's the point of having all that knowledge and not taking that action? So I know people that they know a lot of things about the world around them. They know a lot about, just anything really. Like they might have, have a really good college degree, and they know a lot about mathematics and science and biology and English and everything. And yet they have all this knowledge, but yet they don't know how to take that knowledge and make it into something, to take action, to actually change their own life for the better. They've got all this information, but yet they don't know how to take that information and do something with it. And I never thought I was the smartest person in school. I mean, I definitely was not. I had straight F's, but I would say that learning to try to, understand myself helped me in the long run. I did struggle a lot with my grades, but even though I did, I still pushed myself to try to pass. And I mean, there was a lot of reasons why I struggled in school. I mean, I had a lot of family problems going on. Growing up, we didn't have much of anything to eat most of the time. Some of the family members were very abusive to me. I didn't really have much of anybody to talk to. So when you go to school with bruises on you and marks and everything else, when you've been yelled at and beat, it can be kind of hard to focus to study, or to focus to remember, or to learn. And then as I got into high school, I was still struggling. And I remember it was like my mind had a hard time trying to retain information. It was like it wouldn't let information in to be remembered. It was like it was trying to block all of it out, because that's what I had to do a lot of the time growing up, was to block everything out, to not think of anything, to not feel any emotion. And as I got older, people wondered and they asked, you're so emotionless. Why don't you show any expression on your face hardly? Why do you seem so stoic? And you know, how do you how do you explain this to somebody that doesn't understand it, or they didn't live that life? And even if you did try to explain it to them, they wouldn't understand it, because their perspective is so different. And then people wonder why you might lack emotions, or that you might not have things how they are experiencing it. And then they want to disown you, or to avoid you, or some other reason to dissociate with you because of your differences. And they want to punish you for the things in life that weren't even your choice, that was completely out of your hands. I mean, if you've already been punished in life because things you had no choice over, and then these people want to tell you that it's somehow your fault again. They want to tell you that you're going to be punished again for the life you didn't choose to live. And those aren't people I would call my friends. Those aren't people that I would like to talk to. Sure, I will try to help people through things, but if they don't want to help themselves, then they're never going to change. And surely I wasn't the smartest, as I said, in school, but I think that even though I wasn't the smartest kid, definitely was not. As I said, I had straight F's. All the struggles I went through strengthened my mind, and, well, it strengthened my body even, because I had to do a lot of physical tasks. I didn't just have to deal with, a lot of emotional abuse as a kid. I had to deal with a lot of physical abuse, just as much, maybe if not more than emotional. But that really toughened me up. And so whenever I tried to do any sports in school, it wasn't even difficult for me, really. Like, I actually enjoyed the suffering of doing a lot of jogging or lifting. All the other kids, they absolutely hated having to go run 10 miles or something like that. And the coach would tell us, hey, we're going to do a 3-mile jog today. No, this is for cross country. We're going to do a 3-mile jog, and I'm going to time you, and we'll see where you're at. And so I'd jog at 3 miles, and then I would just keep going. I would just keep jogging and jogging and jogging. And I didn't stop at 3 miles. I just kept going. I kept going until the sun went down, and I was told that it was time to go. Same thing happened, and we had like this weightlifting class or gym class. We were told to do a certain amount of sit-ups or push-ups or something else. I didn't give up or quit or stop when I was told to. I always kept going farther than that, pushing myself farther, because I had to. I didn't know what it meant to not give that full effort physically. To me, as a kid, not giving full effort might mean I might not make it to the next day, or that I might not survive. So the physicality of it, giving up, that was not an option for me. And while all the other kids were complaining that they were sore and they hurt and they were tired, I just kept going. I mean, maybe, I guess there's a limit. I mean, your body can only do so much physically, but I guess I ignored those limitations, and I just kept pushing myself. And I remember we had to be timed for the mile, and at the time I had broken the school record for the 1 mile, but it didn't count because I was not on the sports team, and I had straight Fs. So for a moment I thought to myself, this is unfair. I'm trying so hard. I'm doing so good at this. I'm dealing with so much stuff at home, and it's like I was being punished again because of things that were outside of my control, that I had no control of. And so the times I ran didn't count, even though I was really trying. And then you had other students that did well in class. They didn't have to try very hard. And then athletics, they didn't try very hard, but yet they wondered why they couldn't do as good as me. Whereas I was constantly pushing myself. And yet again, because of things that were outside of my control, I was still being held back again. But even though times I ran didn't count, and even though I might not have been allowed to be on any of the athletics teams, I kept going and I kept pushing myself. I kept trying, and the thing is even though I didn't have the grades to be on the team, I noticed that I did earn the respect of the other students for my effort, for pushing myself and not giving up. And I remember it was a driveway that was like half a mile long. It was about 400 meters one way and then 400 meters the other direction. It was like an L shape. It was like when you first walk up, it was like a sand, like the driveway was between, there's like a house on the left, like it's kind of like, wasn't really a farmhouse, but there was a house there on the left, and there's a big field on the right. Where I lived at the time, it's kind of in the country, but I was maybe only just a couple of miles away from the main part of town, and so it wasn't really that long of a drive to get to anything. But the driveway was kind of a little bit sandy, but then there's grass in the middle, like when the cars would drive down. So it was kind of like sand where the tires always went. But I remember I would always, jog up and down that for hours and hours. And I remember some days I would get up, and as soon as the sun was up, I would jog, and I wouldn't stop jogging until the sun went down. And I did that many times. And I remember the other students asked me, like, how do you run so far, run so fast? And I remember in the school bus, one kid, he asked me, he's like, what's it here that you're tying weights to your ankles? And it was just like these ankle weights that you get at like some store or something, like Walmart or whatever. You get them for like $10, and you just like put them around your ankles, and you just jog with them. But I mean, they help short term, but I think long term using those are probably not good for your knees. But I remember him asking me about that, and I was like, yeah, they're just ankle weights. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. But I've still got them, actually, the one set. I've had them since I was like 12. So I've had these for 16 years. I actually use one of them on my for my microphone at the base of it to help keep the stand upright. But anyways, I remember I'd always jog up and down the driveway, and I start jogging in the morning, keep jogging until the sun was going down. And I remember my mom would ask me, where have you been all day? Because she would be at work most of the day, and then after work she would go to one of her friends' house, and then she wouldn't come back until like later at night, and she'd be on her way and driving home, and she would just see me like jogging up and down the driveway again. She's like, how long you been jogging again? I'm like, all day. And then she was like worried, and she's like, you okay, you angry and all this? And I always kept a lot of my thoughts and emotions to myself. And so when she would ask me things, or people in general, I didn't know how to express my thoughts. I didn't know what to say. I just put everything that bothered me into an activity. And I think that for a lot of guys, this is something that they have to do, because growing up, a lot of guys aren't taught to show their emotion. They're not taught to be emotional. They're taught not to show any emotion whatsoever. They're taught that you have to only be strong. You cannot be weak whatsoever. And if you are, then that you're not a man, or something like that, to try to shame you into being something that other people benefit from. But you don't want to just be physically and mentally strong for the benefit of others. You've got to do it for yourself. And people that tell you otherwise, that by being mentally, emotionally, physically strong for yourself is selfish, and that you should only do it for other people, those same people that tell you that, they're the ones that are selfish, because they're relying on your physical, mental strength for their own benefit. And so, I mean, growing up, I was never taught to express my emotions. I was never taught by anybody um, to do anything other than to hold everything in, other than to just close myself off and to not show anything, because I was told by everybody that showing emotion is weakness, by talking about your problems is weakness, that you're not a real man if you show emotion. And then as I got older, I had to go see therapists and stuff for a lot of problems I was dealing with, because I mean, I was getting rid of a lot of my stress and problems through lifting and other things. And so it was just a really big transition to go from being hit all day, every day, to then suddenly being in a position where I didn't have to deal with that anymore, to where I didn't have to wake up and be starving. My body and my mind was still in this fight or flight point, to where I always felt on edge. I didn't fully adjust to it yet. I didn't really get myself to where I was out of that cycle, that train of thought. And so when I went to therapist and I would try to talk about this or to express the problem, the therapist seemed a bit frustrated in the fact that I wasn't able to express myself or to tell them what I was thinking at this time. And mind you, this was from the age of 16 to 25, maybe. It really tapered off, I would say, after the age of 25, where I just didn't go anymore. And I really started focusing more on understanding myself. But whenever I would go to the therapist and I would try to talk to them and express myself, they seemed frustrated. And how I used to be with trying to express my thoughts or my emotions. And after all, how is somebody to trying to express their emotions if they were told their whole life that by doing that you weren't a man, that you were weak, or if you showed emotions, people would distance themselves from you because they were relying on you for their benefit, for your mental and physical strength to benefit themselves. And then people will wonder why someone has trouble expressing themselves, why someone would have a hard time feeling a lot of emotions and love and connection with people. When you put them through that their entire life on top of the other struggles they're dealing with, and then they still want to place blame on you as if it's your fault. And I know why. I mean, the reason is they don't want to take responsibility for their choices, because they're not the ones that are able to rely on themselves. They've been relying on you the whole time. And if you switch to suddenly thinking for yourself and thinking about your emotions and expressing yourself, then they can't rely on you no more. It doesn't benefit them no more. And those are the people that you don't want to have as friends. They're not somebody that is really going to be there to help you. They're there to benefit themselves. And it's tough to, when you go to a therapist, someone that's supposed to be a professional to help you with dealing with problems, and they want to just tell you that you're the problem, that you're over emotional, that you're under emotional, this and that, and it's like okay. So over time I learned that I had to express myself through actions. A lot of guys aren't taught this, and if they are, they're taught it in an indirect way to where they're expressing themselves through actions that only benefits others at the expense of their own happiness. And so there's nothing wrong with expressing how you feel or what you think, because the people that tell you otherwise don't want you to, because they're benefiting from you not doing that. So if you don't want to be stuck in life, make a change. Make a small change. Make a step. But as long as you're making a step in that direction, towards that, and if you really need to, make a big change. Change your friendships. Cut people out of your life that are only there to drag you down, or they're only there when they need something. And let go of trying to be somebody that everybody tells you that you should be for their benefit. Let go of trying to be who you once were. I mean, the person I once was very different than I am now. I used to not even express my thoughts or emotions or anything. I used to be a very confused and lost person. And I think that when we start attaching ourselves to those memories of who we once were, the memories of all the good times, we often forget all the bad stuff that's happening, and we attach ourselves to it, and we say, I want to go back to that. I want to be who I once was. I want to be able to have all those good memories. And then you completely forget about a lot of the struggles. And as they say, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So, and you just got to try and do what you can with what you got, with the time that you have. Because if you take it for granted, time will pass by, and another 10 years from now, you'll be thinking the same thing. I wish I could be who I once was 10 years ago. Whatever happened to that person? And 10 years ago, you might have been in the position you are now, thinking, why can't I be this or that? And then another 10 years go by, and before you know it, your life is over, and you're stuck trying to be somebody because you're not happy with how your life is now. So you've got to make a change. You've got to do something. I had to make a lot of changes in my life, drastic changes. I've had to move different states. I've had to cut friends out of my life. I've had to cut family members out of my life. I've had to change jobs. I've had to do a lot of things to try to get my life situated to where I could think clearly for myself, to where I could think about what gave me a sense of meaning, happiness, what gave me a reason to wake up every morning and be happy with who I am. To stop telling myself that showing emotion is bad, and to stop telling myself that I'm a bad person because I'm not like someone else, or not living my life like them. I mean, if everybody was the same, how boring would life be? I mean, could you imagine that? You're going to make a new friend, it's like, oh, this person's the same as this person. This person's the same emotions and same... I mean, isn't that what makes things interesting when it comes to making new friends? Is it's a different person, it's different emotions, different ideas, different life experiences, and you can take those experiences and see it from their perspective to gain knowledge for yourself, to learn and to improve and help others. And so if everybody was the same, we all thought the same, I think life would be pretty boring. I mean, like, what would you even talk about then? If everybody had the same hobbies and same goals. That would be a pretty boring life. I would definitely think so. But as I was saying earlier about school and pushing myself, when I got older, I had a couple of points in my life where I thought, maybe, life has been so hard and such a struggle that I'm just going to take it easy. I'm going to choose the easy path in life and just, not push myself as hard. And to think that, I deserve this. The world owes me something because of this. But that's not true. Because as soon as I started living life too easily, not pushing myself, I just started getting lost. And I started thinking, what am I doing? I don't really have much motivation to do anything then. And then spirals out of control, and then you go back to being, suffering again. I think a lot of people that have had a lot of hard things happen to them, that have overcome a lot of stuff, they think that the world owes them something, and then they have this feeling of revenge or hatred or anger. But you've got to let that go. You've got to move forward and to realize that the world doesn't owe you anything. The only thing that is owed is what you owe to yourself. You owe to yourself to let it go. You owe to yourself to be happy with who you are, with what you are, and with where you are in life. Because there's not going to be a moment every time in life that someone's going to be there to help you. And I think that me sharing some of the stories of the things that I've had to go through in life as a kid will possibly help you through whatever it is that you're dealing with. And I used to think that the world owed me something, and I thought that, because of what's happened, that I should get a free handout, but that wasn't the case. That didn't work. You've always got to keep pushing yourself. You've always got to keep moving forward and doing what you can with what you got, and let go of the past of who you once were. And we're always changing. It's like the water in the ocean, or the water in a cup. They seem so different in size. One is so vast and one is so small, but yet they're so similar. Just like how people can live two completely different lives, but in the end, we're so much more similar than we think, and yet so different. Sometimes you just have to go with the flow of things. If you resist things too much, then it gets to be a struggle, and then you start to break down. I remember when I was younger, I would always say, when people would ask me, how are you doing? What have you been up to today? What do you plan on doing? I would say, just going with the flow of life. Just going with the flow of things. And I remember some of my friends and my mom would always ask me, what does that mean? I would explain, and I would tell them, well, instead of fighting so much against the resistance, I accept it and I go along with it. A lot of times in life we have problems that we try to run from, but for me, I've always tried to run to the problem, to face it, to overcome it, because if you never face it, if you run from it, it's always going to be there in the back of your mind. And when the moment comes that you have to face it again, you're going to run in fear. But if you run towards your problems to face them, you face them head on, when that happens, you'll take joy in knowing that, hey, I'm facing it again. I'm not afraid. I've done this a million times before. what makes this so different? And at a point, it starts getting easy. It starts getting so easy that it's humorous. And then you overcome it. You start to laugh at how trivial it really was, or how trivial something was that you thought was so major. And then when the big problems come up in life that you have to overcome, then you can really face them. Because the person that can't face the small problems, they have no chance of overcoming the large ones. So don't run from your problems. Run to them. Face them. Take them on and accept the challenge. Because if you never take on challenges and you never push yourself, then, well, we know what happens then. You lose motivation, you lose hope to do anything. You don't have a desire to do much in life. You stagnate, get stuck in that loop. You start thinking, what could have been? What should have been? I miss who I was 20 years ago. Why can't I be that again? It's because you're just sitting around doing the same thing day in, day out, expecting a different result. So it's up to you to make that choice, to make that change. Be a better person and keep pushing yourself. But you gotta try to find the balance in it. There's pushing yourself and trying really hard, and at the same time going with the flow of things. Just going with the flow of the struggle. And I've always done, used to do a lot of jogging when I was younger, and I had knee surgeries on my right leg, and that changed a lot of things. I'm not able to do a lot of the stuff that I used to, not because mentally I can't do it, but physically I'm not capable of doing a lot of stuff I used to, such as twisting really fast and stuff like that. And because of an injury to my ACL, hamstring, quad, and calf, and a bunch of other injuries that if I was to constantly think to myself, why can't I be how I was 10 years ago? Well, things have physically changed completely. But does that mean I give up on taking care of my health? Does that mean I stop running altogether? No. I can still go do some sprints. I can go for a jog, think about things, but don't reminisce in the moment trying to relive that over again. Try to be happy with what you've got. I try to be happy with what I have now. And as an artist, I've always been an artist, but I've had multiple hobbies, but I don't try to relive some of the stuff because it's changed. I'm not that same person no more, but I can still share my experiences with other people. I can still think about it and use those experiences to better myself and to try to be better in other areas of my life. And so that's why I think that a lot of the athletic pursuits I had, we think to ourselves that maybe things would have been better if only this had happened, right? Now, if I think back and let's say I did have good grades and life wasn't as difficult, and I was allowed on some sports team or something, right? Anything could have happened. I could have had a traumatic accident, severe injury that debilitated me for the rest of my life. You just never know. I mean, anytime we think of something we want to do that is positive, that is goal oriented, we often think so much of the good outcomes, and we tend to not think of all the negative impacts that could happen or what could happen to us from that choice. And as I said, if I was to be able to be on the sports teams, and I went to college and everything, and went through athletics and something could have happened. Things could have went a different way. I might not have the knowledge that I do have now in life. So one of the most important things you can have is life experience. And as I said before about in school, you can have somebody that has no straight A's. They can remember stuff really well. They, they're straight A students, but if they have no life experience, they don't have any understanding of themselves, and then go out into the world, and then they're thrown a challenge that's outside of that. They're not going to know how to handle it. And money was never the goal of anything for me in life because I never even had money growing up. So I don't have to have a lot of it to be happy. But the little that I do have, when I do have it, I greatly appreciate it. So it takes less of it to make me happy because I'm more appreciative of the life experiences and the knowledge that I have that's way more important than any amount of money can buy. And I hope that me sharing this with you and others will help you get over that as well, whatever you're dealing with in life. And a lot of these discussions will kind of be in the moment. They'll just be not really planned because, I mean, emotions and thoughts and ideas, they're not really planned in the first place. I mean, think of the most creative thing you've thought of, or when you had a lot of ideas or you thought about something. When was it that you had a really good idea, or you had something you thought of and you think to yourself, why didn't I think of this before? Why didn't I, what happened? What happens at random times when you're taking a shower, when you're out going for a walk somewhere, or let's say you're just driving somewhere and you're just kind of sitting there. You just start thinking. You start getting more ideas, and that's what happens to me a lot of times. I think a lot if I'm going around my apartment cleaning or if I'm just driving somewhere. So picking a single topic and only talking about that, I will admit I have a bit of a difficulty doing that sometimes because my mind, and I think about a lot of stuff. And I think for me as an artist, because I'm creative and I like to express myself through the artwork, and so that's why a lot of the stuff that I create is like doodling and it's really abstract and it's kind of all over the place. That's kind of how my mind works, but I kind of enjoy it being that way because it helps me from obsessively thinking about one thing only and getting too much anxiety about it. And that's why I'll switch from doing one type of drawing to another and kind of go back and forth. And so most of these are going to just be in the moment ideas and talks and thoughts and ideas that whatever comes to me, I'm just going to say what's in my mind. And hopefully this helps other people. And I mean, I know some people might want it more structured. They might want it a more thought out way to where there's like plan A and there's step one and step two. Maybe in the future I'll do that, but for now, I think it's best to just get my ideas out there and to talk about them rather than just keep them locked up and to never share them in the first place. Because sometimes you just got to make that step, as I said. You've got to make that change because if I worry so much about trying to make everything perfect, if I keep worrying too much about trying to make everything steps in some kind of learning program for people, then I'll never get the word out there and nobody will even know in the first place. So just make sure that you're making that first step. And sometimes the first step can be the hardest, but once you make that first step, before you know it, you go from crawling to walking to jogging to sprinting, and then you get there. You get where you want to be, Sometimes where you want to be is different than where you need to be. And where you need to be might be a point in life to where you think nothing's getting better, and you start thinking about who you used to be. But then you need to realize from life experiences and think to yourself, this is a struggle. This is an obstacle. If I can overcome this, what challenges can I overcome later in life? What person could I be? What person will I be? Don't think too much about who you used to be and try to relive that. But live the life that you have now and cherish every moment that you have, of every step and of every breath. So keep doing what you do and don't give up, because not all of us have someone there to believe in us. And if you don't believe me, if you don't believe that I believe in you, the least you can do is believe in yourself. Because at the end of the day, the only opinion that truly matters, that determines the success or the failure, the construction or destruction of your own life, is you. So keep doing what you have to do in life to be what you want to be and what you need to be. Thank you for listening, and if you found this helpful, let me know what you think. And if there's anybody you know that would like to hear this or that would like to share this with them, go and share it with your family, your friends, anybody you know. Hopefully my words and life experiences help you overcome what you're dealing with in life. And until then, I'll talk to you again. And don't ever give up. Believe in yourself.